Thank you for joining me as we explore a topic that touches the hearts of many. Life is a journey filled with moments of joy, challenges, and everything in between. At times, we may feel tested, as though our faith is being put through a trial. In these moments, we might wonder if there's a higher purpose behind it all. The truth is, God sometimes allows these trials as a way to deepen our faith, strengthen our character, and draw us closer to Him. Today, I want to share with you 7 signs that God may be testing your faith and how these signs can actually serve as a guide to understanding His purpose for your life. Have you ever felt completely unsure about the direction you should take in life? Perhaps you're at a crossroads in your career, facing a major decision about your relationships or contemplating a significant move. This uncertainty can be both overwhelming and uncomfortable, leaving us feeling adrift or even anxious about the future. Often we find ourselves searching for signs, hoping for a clear answer or direction. But sometimes, instead of receiving immediate clarity, we're faced with a period of waiting, of holding on without knowing exactly what comes next. In moments like these, God may be using the uncertainty to encourage us to deepen our trust in Him. This period of ambiguity serves as a test, a gentle nudge reminding us that we don't have to have all the answers right away. Instead, it's an invitation to surrender our need for control and to place our confidence in something greater than our own understanding. When God brings us into a season of uncertainty, it can be tempting to look for quick fixes or to make decisions based solely on our own logic. However, God wants us to turn to Him, to seek His guidance rather than relying solely on our own plans. He wants us to pause and be still, to listen for His voice, and to trust that He knows what's best, even when we can't see the whole picture. This isn't always easy. It requires patience and a willingness to let go of our desire for immediate answers. By leaning into faith and trusting that God is guiding us, we allow ourselves to grow spiritually. Each day we learn to take one step forward with courage and humility, knowing that the path will become clear in God's perfect timing. Uncertainty, as uncomfortable as it may be, can actually be a powerful teacher. It reminds us that life's journey is one of faith, not of having everything figured out. Through this experience, our relationship with God deepens as we come to rely on His wisdom rather than on our own limited perspective. So, when we face these seasons of not knowing, rather than letting it bring fear, we can allow it to inspire greater faith, trusting that each uncertain step is bringing us closer to the purpose He has for us. Have you ever experienced a season where you felt a deep spiritual or emotional dryness? You might feel like your prayers seem unanswered, or that your connection with God feels distant, almost as if He isn't there or isn't listening. This period can feel empty and confusing, and it can be especially disheartening if you're usually someone who finds strength and comfort in your faith. This dryness can make you question if you're doing something wrong or if something has shifted in your relationship with God. What's important to remember is that these times of dryness are not always a sign of failure or something negative. Instead, they may be an invitation to seek God more earnestly. In the past, it may have been easy to feel close to God without much effort. Now, however, this dryness pushes us to go deeper, to pursue God with more intentionality. When God feels distant, it doesn't mean He's actually far away. Often, He's calling us to stretch our faith, to look beyond the surface of our feelings, and to invest in our relationship with Him in new ways. This journey into seeking God more purposefully can change us profoundly. It encourages us to create stronger spiritual practices, to spend more time in prayer, and to immerse ourselves in the Scriptures. When the joy and enthusiasm we once felt are harder to find, we're challenged to see our faith as more than just a feeling or an experience. It becomes an unwavering commitment to follow God, even when things feel uncertain. Spiritual dryness reminds us to grow deeper roots. Just as plants grow their strongest roots during dry seasons to reach sources of water beneath the surface, we too are encouraged to develop a stronger foundation in our faith. This season can be a test, yes, but also a profound period of growth. It helps us rely not on fleeting emotions, but on a mature, steadfast faith that withstands both good and difficult times. Even in the silence, God is working within us, calling us to grow closer and to seek Him with all our hearts. When we emerge from this period, we often find that our faith has grown in ways we couldn't have imagined, making us stronger, more resilient, and more deeply connected to God than ever before. Have you ever felt the frustration of waiting for something you deeply desire or something you believe you're prepared for, yet it just doesn't seem to happen? It could be waiting for a new job opportunity, a relationship, a breakthrough, or simply a sign that you're moving in the right direction. These periods of waiting when nothing seems to shift can feel endless and often lead us to question why things aren't progressing as quickly as we hoped. We may even wonder if we're doing something wrong or if we're being overlooked. What we might not realize in these moments is that God often uses these times of delay to test and strengthen our patience. Waiting is not wasted time, it's a season that teaches us to trust in God's timing rather than our own. Delays give us the opportunity to surrender control and to rest in the belief that God's timing is perfect. Even when we don't understand the reason for the wait, we're invited to trust that He sees the bigger picture and knows when we are truly ready for the next step. During these periods of waiting, God may be working behind the scenes in ways we can't yet see. He may be preparing our hearts, refining our character, or aligning circumstances so that when the door does open, we're ready to walk through it with confidence and clarity. Waiting teaches us to rely on God and to cultivate a sense of peace, even in the absence of instant results. It reminds us that there's value in the journey, not just in reaching the destination. Furthermore, delays can build a sense of gratitude and perspective. When we finally receive what we've been waiting for, we're often more appreciative, more prepared, and more prepared, and more humbled by the journey it took to get there. This time of waiting transforms us, helping us become more patient, grounded, and focused on what truly matters. We learn to hold our desires and goals with open hands, knowing that if something is truly meant for us, it will come in God's perfect timing. Rather than seeing delays as obstacles, we can begin to see them as gifts that teach us valuable lessons in patience, surrender, and faith. Every day of waiting becomes a step of trust, a small act of faith that God's plans are unfolding exactly as they're meant to. When we finally move forward, we do so with a deeper faith and a clearer understanding that our lives are unfolding according to a greater plan, one that is always designed for our ultimate good and growth. Have you ever felt the weight of facing a temptation or challenge that seemed to push you to your limits? Whether it's a situation that tests your values, a decision that challenges your integrity, or a circumstance that feels too difficult to handle, these moments can be incredibly trying. It's natural to wonder why we encounter these struggles or to question if we're capable of overcoming them. In times like these, it may be that God is testing us, allowing us to face difficulties so that we can grow stronger in faith, character, and resilience. When we encounter temptations, we're placed in situations where we must make a choice, often between what's easy and what's right. These choices reveal a lot about who we are and who we're striving to become. By resisting temptation and choosing to act with integrity, we not only stay true to our values, but also deepen our commitment to living a life that aligns with our faith. Each time we choose to honor God over immediate gratification or worldly gains, we strengthen our character and build a habit of resilience that will serve us in the future. Challenges, too, test us in profound ways. Life can bring hardships that feel insurmountable, whether it's a financial setback, a difficult relationship, or a health crisis. These moments push us to confront our fears and limitations. However, they also teach us valuable lessons about perseverance, patience, and trust in God's plan. When we face these challenges with faith, we grow in ways we couldn't if everything were easy. Hardships reveal our inner strength and help us develop a sense of compassion and empathy for others who face similar struggles. God doesn't allow us to go through these tests to harm us, but to refine us. Just as metal is refined through intense heat, our character is strengthened through trials. We emerge from these experiences with a greater sense of purpose, a clearer understanding of our values, and a faith that has been tested and proven resilient. These challenges remind us that we are not alone. God is with us, guiding us and giving us the strength to overcome what we once thought we couldn't handle. By facing and overcoming temptation and hardship, we grow into the people God created us to be. We become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate, capable of handling life's difficulties with grace and courage. Each challenge we overcome builds our faith and draws us closer to God, reminding us that He is our source of strength, and that through Him we can endure all things. When we look back on these moments, we often see that they were pivotal in shaping us, teaching us to trust deeply, act with integrity, and live out our faith in both word and action. Have you ever faced a time in life when financial or material resources felt limited, or you found yourself struggling to make ends meet? It might have been a season where bills felt overwhelming, opportunities were scarce, or you simply didn't know how you were going to get by. These periods of financial or material hardship can bring a lot of stress anxiety, and even feelings of inadequacy or worry about the future. However, what may not be immediately apparent is that God sometimes allows us to experience these challenging times as a way to test and deepen our trust in Him as our provider. When we go through seasons of financial strain, we're given an opportunity to shift our focus from worldly resources to spiritual ones. Often we're accustomed to relying on our own efforts, planning, and resources to feel secure. But these times of material lack remind us that our ultimate security doesn't come from money, possessions, or job titles, it comes from God. In moments of financial difficulty, we're encouraged to surrender our worries to Him and to remember that He is able to provide for our needs in ways that we might not expect. This trust doesn't mean we simply sit back and wait without any effort. Rather, it calls us to continue doing our best, to be wise stewards of what we have, and to trust that God will provide what we truly need. Financial struggles can help us develop a mindset of gratitude, teaching us to appreciate even the smallest blessings and to recognize the abundance in what we might otherwise take for granted. When we have less, we become more aware of what truly matters and often find contentment in things that are beyond material value, like family, friendship, faith, and community. These difficult times also remind us to practice generosity, even in our own need. When we learn to give out of scarcity rather than abundance, we experience the profound joy of trusting God to meet not only our own needs, but also the needs of others. This deepens our faith as we see God working in unexpected ways, sometimes providing for us through people we least expected, opening doors we hadn't anticipated, or teaching us creative ways to manage our resources. Ultimately, these financial struggles remind us that our lives are in God's hands. He knows our needs before we even ask, and He cares about our well-being. Through these experiences, we learn to depend on Him more fully and recognize that He is a faithful provider who sees the bigger picture. When we look back on these seasons of financial or material challenges, we often see how they shaped us into more grateful, resilient, and compassionate individuals who value what we have and trust God for what we need. By holding on to faith during these times, we discover a peace that surpasses worldly understanding and find ourselves strengthened by the knowledge that God is indeed our ultimate provider, guiding us every step of the way. Have you ever felt completely overwhelmed by the responsibilities and challenges life has placed on your shoulders? Maybe you're juggling family obligations, a demanding job, personal commitments, or even facing crises that all seem to demand your attention at once. It's as if the weight of everything is simply too much to handle, and you wonder how you're supposed to manage it all. These times can be exhausting and disheartening, leaving us feeling like we're not enough, that we're failing, or that we're losing control. But sometimes this feeling of being overwhelmed can actually be a sign that God is inviting us to learn a profound lesson, to rely on His strength rather than our own. In our culture, there's often an emphasis on independence, resilience, and self-reliance. We're taught that success means being able to handle everything on our own. But God's perspective is different. He never intended for us to carry all of life's burdens alone, nor to take on every responsibility without His help. When life becomes overwhelming, it's often a gentle reminder that we need to let go of the pressure to do everything by ourselves and instead lean on God for the strength and wisdom we lack. In these moments, God may be testing our faith, teaching us to surrender control and trust that He will sustain us. The feeling of being overwhelmed can serve as an invitation to pause, breathe, and reconnect with God through prayer and reflection. It reminds us that we don't have to have all the answers or be strong enough on our own. As we turn to God, we can find comfort in knowing that He is with us in every struggle, guiding us, giving us wisdom, and helping us prioritize what truly matters. Instead of pushing ourselves to the point of exhaustion, we can seek His guidance on what we should focus on and what we can let go of, trusting that He will lead us to what's best. In relying on God during overwhelming times, we learn the beauty of surrender. We discover that when we reach our limits, He provides the strength we need to continue. This dependence on Him builds a deeper, more intimate relationship with God as we begin to see Him as our source of strength rather than just a distant observer. We realize that He cares deeply about our struggles, our fears, and our responsibilities, and that He is ready to walk with us through every difficult moment. As we grow in faith, we come to understand that God uses these overwhelming times to teach us humility and dependence. He reminds us that we are human with limitations, and that it's perfectly okay to ask for His help. By releasing our burdens to Him, we not only find the strength to keep going, but we also gain a sense of peace and purpose that allows us to approach our responsibilities with renewed perspective. When we reflect on these times, we often find that we came out stronger, wiser, and more grounded in our faith, realizing that we are never truly alone. Through every challenge, God is right there, offering His strength so that we can carry on with resilience, courage, and hope. Have you ever found yourself questioning your purpose, your beliefs, or even the foundation of your faith? Perhaps you're going through a season where life feels confusing and you're not sure why you're facing certain challenges or what God's plan is for you. These moments of doubt can be unsettling, especially if faith has always been an anchor in your life. When you start to question what you once felt so sure about, it's easy to feel lost or uncertain. However, periods of doubt are not only normal, but can also be a crucial part of spiritual growth and discovery. God may allow us to experience these moments of questioning as a way to deepen our understanding of Him and to refine our beliefs. Faith isn't meant to be passive, it's an active, evolving relationship that sometimes requires us to wrestle with difficult questions. When we face doubts, it's not a sign of failure or weakness in our faith, but rather an invitation to explore our beliefs on a deeper level. These times of questioning can help us break free from simply accepting things as we were taught, or as we have always believed. Instead, they encourage us to actively seek answers, engage with God, and come to a more personal and mature understanding of what faith truly means. As we question and seek answers, we often turn to prayer, scripture, and the wisdom of others who have experienced similar struggles. These resources provide a foundation and can offer comfort and guidance as we navigate our uncertainties. In searching for answers, we discover that faith is not about having every answer, it's about trusting God even when things are unclear. When we learn to hold our faith amid questions, it becomes stronger and more resilient. We develop a faith that is less about certainty and more about trust of faith that can withstand storms and trials without breaking. This process of questioning also helps us refine our purpose. Sometimes doubts arise when we feel disconnected from our current path or when we sense that something more is needed. These feelings push us to reevaluate where we are and where we want to go, prompting us to seek a clearer direction that aligns with God's plan for us. In questioning, we may discover a renewed sense of purpose or a calling that feels even more meaningful than before. Doubts, then, are not merely obstacles, they are catalysts for growth, helping us become more intentional and focused on what truly matters. In embracing this journey, we become more authentic in our faith. We learn to be open about our struggles, allowing us to connect more deeply with others who may also experience doubt and confusion. Through our vulnerability, we can inspire others to seek God even when they have questions and to trust that He welcomes our honest exploration. Looking back, many find that times of questioning were essential to building a more profound and enduring faith. These moments reveal a God who is not afraid of our doubts, but who invites us to bring our questions to Him, to seek understanding, and to grow closer to Him through it all. Faith isn't about being unshakable at every moment, it's about coming to God with an open heart, even in uncertainty. And through this journey, we find a more resilient, genuine faith, a faith that trusts in God's goodness and purpose, even when we don't have every answer, knowing that He is guiding us and that each step, question, and doubt serves to bring us closer to the truth and the life He has planned for us. Have you ever gone through a period in life where it felt like every aspect of your character, patience, and resolve was being tested? It's as if every challenge, disappointment, or struggle has a way of pushing you to your limits. While these times can feel incredibly demanding and even exhausting, they often serve a higher purpose. God may allow us to go through such refining periods not to overwhelm us, but to strengthen our character and prepare us for what lies ahead. These seasons are not meant to break us. Instead, they are part of a greater process of growth and transformation, preparing us to fulfill His plans. Just as precious metals are purified through intense heat, our character is often shaped through challenges. In these moments, we're given the opportunity to grow in virtues like patience, humility, resilience, and compassion. Each challenge calls us to dig deeper, to reflect on who we are, and to make choices that align with our values and beliefs. Over time, we become more self-aware, learning to identify and let go of things that no longer serve us, like fear, pride, or doubt. These experiences help us develop a clearer understanding of our strengths, as well as our areas for growth, guiding us toward becoming the person God intends us to be. Moreover, these seasons of character testing teach us to rely on God's wisdom and guidance. When we're faced with decisions or struggles that challenge us, we learn that we don't have to have all the answers or carry every burden on our own. We're invited to lean into our faith, to seek God's help and direction, and to trust that He's working in and through every circumstance, even the difficult ones. This dependence on God nurtures a deeper sense of humility, as we come to recognize that our true strength comes not from ourselves but from Him. These refining periods also prepare us for future challenges or opportunities. As we grow stronger and wiser, we become more capable of handling greater responsibilities or stepping into roles that may have once felt intimidating. The qualities we develop, like perseverance, faith, and integrity, equip us to lead, to serve others more compassionately, and to stand firm in our beliefs. Each test strengthens us, making us resilient and adaptable, capable of facing life's ups and downs with a steady heart. In addition, these experiences often deepen our empathy and compassion for others. When we've been through hardships ourselves, we become more understanding of the struggles others face. We develop a heart that is more inclined to support, encourage, and lift others up. God uses these seasons to make us not only stronger, but also kinder, more loving, and more willing to extend grace to those who are struggling. In this way, our challenges don't just transform us, they also enable us to be a source of strength and encouragement to those around us. As we reflect on these times, we often find that, although the journey was difficult, it ultimately led us to a place of greater faith, purpose, and wisdom. We come to see that each challenge was part of a divine process, helping us become who we were created to be. God, as a loving Father, knows what is best for us and is always guiding us toward our highest potential, even when it requires us to endure hardship. We emerge from these seasons with a deeper, more mature faith. We realize that our character, refined through challenges, is now capable of withstanding trials that might have once shaken us. We become a living testament to God's faithfulness, resilience, and love. These experiences remind us that although the process may be hard, it is also profoundly beautiful, leading us closer to God and to the person He has called us to be. Have you ever found yourself feeling isolated, as if the people you once depended on or felt close to are suddenly distant or unavailable? This kind of loneliness can be deeply unsettling, especially if you're used to a strong support network of friends, family, or community. It's natural to feel hurt or confused in these moments, wondering why certain relationships seem to be shifting or why you feel as though you're standing alone in your journey. But often, this season of isolation can be a powerful time when God calls you to draw closer to Him, relying on His presence and guidance more than on the people around you. When people become less available or relationships begin to shift, it can feel like a loss, but it's also an invitation to strengthen your personal connection with God. Sometimes God allows us to go through periods of solitude to remind us that He is our ultimate source of comfort, strength, and wisdom. During these times, we may realize that we have leaned too heavily on others for support, validation, or direction, and God may be encouraging us to develop a more direct relationship with Him, one that isn't dependent on the presence or approval of others. Isolation can be a time of profound spiritual growth. Without the constant input or influence of others, we're able to hear God's voice more clearly, to reflect deeply on our own thoughts, and to tune in to His guidance. It's an opportunity to discover who we are in Him, independent of others' opinions or expectations. This solitude allows us to become more grounded in our faith, as we learn to trust God's love and wisdom over the shifting tides of human relationships. We begin to realize that while relationships are a gift, they're not meant to replace the foundation we have in God. In these moments of isolation, we're often encouraged to focus on prayer, scripture, and reflection. By turning to God for strength and encouragement, we deepen our understanding of His presence in our lives. We learn that God is always there, even when people aren't, and that He knows us intimately, our fears, our hopes, our struggles. This understanding brings a peace and reassurance that cannot be shaken by temporary feelings of loneliness. We find ourselves becoming more resilient, more confident in God's love, and less affected by the ebbs and flows of human connection. These seasons also teach us empathy and compassion. As we experience loneliness ourselves, we develop a greater sensitivity toward others who may feel isolated or forgotten. This newfound empathy opens our hearts, enabling us to reach out more sincerely to those who may also be struggling. Isolation, then, isn't just a time of personal growth. It's a period where God prepares us to be more understanding and supportive of others, making us more compassionate and aware of those who need a helping hand. In the end, when we emerge from these seasons of solitude, we often find that our relationships are healthier and more balanced. Having learned to lean on God as our primary source of strength, we're less likely to depend too heavily on others for our sense of self-worth or happiness. Our relationships become a source of mutual support and joy rather than a need we feel desperate to fill. Through this journey, we learn to cherish relationships without clinging to them, knowing that God is always with us, guiding and providing for us. These times of isolation ultimately remind us that God is not only present but actively working in our lives, even when others aren't around. They teach us that our relationship with Him is the foundation upon which everything else stands. And as we grow closer to Him, we gain the strength and wisdom to navigate all our relationships with a heart that is secure, peaceful, and full of faith. When we reflect back on these periods of solitude, we see that they were not empty times, but rather rich seasons of spiritual growth, preparing us for a life of deeper connection to God and ultimately to others. Have you ever found yourself experiencing a deep sense of longing, a craving for something more, whether it's a deeper purpose, greater peace, or even just a sense of fulfillment that feels elusive? It might feel like you've achieved what you thought would bring satisfaction, whether in your career, your relationships, or your personal accomplishments, but still, there's an emptiness that lingers. In these moments of discontent or longing, you may be feeling like there's something more you were created for, but you can't quite place what it is. These feelings of dissatisfaction, of longing for something greater, are often God's way of nudging you to recognize that your deepest needs and desires can only be truly fulfilled by Him. While it may seem like material success, achievement, or relationships should be enough, we often find that they leave us wanting more. This isn't because these things are inherently bad, but because they can never fully satisfy the deepest parts of who we are. Our hearts were made for something far greater than the temporary pleasures of this world. When we feel a sense of dissatisfaction, it's often a sign that God is inviting us into a deeper, more intimate relationship with Him. This longing for something more isn't a flaw or a sign of failure. It's a reminder that our true satisfaction and fulfillment are found in God alone. God allows us to feel this sense of dissatisfaction to help us refocus our hearts on Him. He understands that our souls are restless until they find their rest in Him. Through the emptiness and longing, God draws us to seek Him more earnestly, to realize that no earthly success or pleasure can fill the void in our hearts. It's an invitation to turn away from worldly pursuits and to look to Him for true meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. The more we seek Him in the midst of our dissatisfaction, the more we begin to understand that He alone is the answer to our deepest longings. In this season of longing, we are often reminded of our dependence on God. These desires point us back to the truth that we were created for a relationship with Him. When we pursue God and His purposes, we find that our hearts are filled with a peace that surpasses understanding, a joy that is not dependent on circumstances, and a contentment that cannot be taken away. This process helps us grow spiritually as we learn to let go of the things that once seemed so important and to prioritize a life centered on God's will. This longing also deepens our sense of gratitude and longing for heaven. As we acknowledge the impermanence of this world, we begin to yearn more deeply for eternal things, things that cannot be taken from us, things that fulfill us in ways the world never can. The more we align our hearts with God's will, the more we realize that our true home is not in this world, but in a relationship with Him that will last forever. This longing becomes a beautiful reminder that we are not made to be satisfied with the temporary, but to seek the eternal fulfillment only God can provide. As we move through this season of longing, we learn to hold loosely to the things of this world, knowing that they are temporary and passing. We begin to prioritize the things that matter eternally, investing in our relationship with God, our faith, and our calling. In doing so, we find that our hearts become full, not with worldly accomplishments, but with the presence of God Himself. Through these seasons of longing, God helps us see that true fulfillment isn't found in achieving everything we set our minds to. It's found in a relationship with Him where we find our deepest purpose, joy, and contentment. And as we seek Him, He begins to fulfill those longings, drawing us closer to Him in a way that nothing else could. The more we understand that our true satisfaction is in Him, the more we experience the peace and joy that can only come from knowing our Creator and walking in His will for our lives.